be sure that religion is false? It is a question that's meant to sound profound, to imply that the religious position is the default and that any deviation requires an extraordinary, perhaps impossible level of proof. But let's flip that on its head. How can you be sure that there is no juju or tokoloshi, or that the Aztec god doesn't still demand a daily tribute of blood to keep the sun in the sky? The honest answer is that you can't be absolutely certain. But you live your life with the functional, rational certainty that these are myths. My position is no different. I've just applied that same standard of evidence, or rather the complete lack of it, to the last remaining god on the list. If you were a single divine truth, you would expect a clear, unambiguous signal, a universal broadcast. Instead, what we have is a cacophony of competing, mutually exclusive revelations. The Christian asserts that Jesus is the divine Son of God, a belief that is considered blasphemy, shirk in Islam, which holds that Jesus was merely a prophet. The Jew is still waiting for a Messiah. The Christian believes has already come and gone. The Hindu concept of Brahman is so philosophically distinct from the Abrahamic personal God that they might as well be discussing different subjects entirely. They can't all be right. An omnipotent, omniscient being who genuinely desires to be known has by any objective measure failed spectacularly at the simple task of communication. The very existence of thousands of contradictory faiths is perhaps the most powerful evidence against the truth of any single one. They cancel each other out. But we have the holy books, the faithful cry, the inerrant word of God. Inerrant? These texts are monuments to the very human, very flawed, very ignorant time in which they were written. Take the Bible. It presents a cosmology of a flat earth covered by a solid dome or firmament, with the sun and moon as lesser lights set within it. It describes a global flood for which there is not a shred of geological evidence. In fact, the geological, biological, and genetic evidence makes such an event an absolute impossibility. It is not just scientific errors, it is the internal contradictions that are staggering. How many animals of each kind did Noah take on the ark? Genesis 6 says 2 of every kind. Genesis 7 says 7 pairs of the clean animals and only 1 pair of the unclean. Did Judas die by hanging himself, or by falling in a field and having his bowels gush open? The Gospels give you both options. This isn't divine coherence, it is sloppy editing. Let's bring this into our world, here on Sunday, July 20th, 2025. Imagine a software company releases a new operating system. They claim it is perfect, divinely inspired, the final word on computing. But as soon as people install it, their computers start crashing. The operating system claims that the hard drive is made of cheese. It gives contradictory error messages for the same problem. And the user manual was written in the 2nd century and has been poorly translated by a dozen different committees, each with their own agenda. Would you trust that operating system with your data? Would you defend it as inerrant? Of course not. You would call it what it is, a failed product built on a flawed design. Yet, when it comes to the operating system of our entire moral and existential framework, we are told to ignore the crashes, the contradictions, and the demonstrably false claims about reality. We are told to have faith in the buggy code. Why? So how can we be sure? We can be sure because every testable claim that religion has ever made about the natural world has been proven false. We can be sure because the sheer multiplicity of faiths make the singular truth of any one of them a statistical absurdity. But most importantly, we can be sure because the premise is wrong. The burden of proof is not on the skeptic. It is on the one making the extraordinary claim. And in 2,000 years of Christianity, 1,400 years of Islam, and more of Judaism, not one shred of verifiable, empirical evidence has ever been presented for their central claims. None. Embracing this reality isn't a cause for despair. It is a cause for liberation. It means that we are not the flawed subjects of some celestial tyrant, created sick and then commanded to be well, as Hitchens put it. It means our morality doesn't come from an ancient book filled with tribal bigotry, but from our evolved sense of empathy and our rational understanding of societal well-being. It means this life, this one precious, finite existence, is not a dress rehearsal for a fantasy to come. It is the main event. We can be sure religion is false because reason, evidence, and intellectual honesty demand it. And that, far from being a loss, is the beginning of true human wisdom. Have a great Sunday, guys. We'll see you again next week. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, and we will meet you again.